Beautiful ending to a sad story. Baby Osenya headed home after surgery.
The government asks the Supreme Court to reverse the media's victory in the digital switch case.
Government addresses fears of foreign missions as MPs demand special sitting of a security operation.
Text Unye, you know? And you know Unye who it is? Yes. So I was telling my friend, why are you letting down this guy? Yes.
And the Deputy President assures Kenyans on security in a rare Twitter conference.
This is KTN Prime with Nancy Kachungira and Ben Kitili.
Hello and welcome to KTN Prime this Thursday evening. So good to have you with us. And it is definitely a good night because we get to start with some good news. We kick off our bulletin tonight with the news that baby Satrin Osenya was discharged from Kenyatta National Hospital today.
Now that is 3 weeks after the events that changed his life. Friends he made during his stay at the hospital assembled to bid him farewell as he embarks on his journey of recovery.
KTN's Wilkester Nyabo now tells us that story.
Baby Satrin Osenya is going home. The active 18-month-old child bears little resemblance to the frightened toddler who was carried into Kenyatta National Hospital by his father 18 days ago. Much has happened in that time. Doctors successfully operated on him and removed the bullet that was lodged in his brain. And with the pain gone, what is left is an ordinary, sometimes mischievous toddler. Baby Satrin bids his new friends goodbye. The curious stares from the crowd that has gathered do not faze him. He has grown used to them these last 3 weeks, and he now returns the attention, subjecting the camera crews to scrutiny. But the scars still linger. Though he is going home, Satrin will have to return for regular checkups.
He's going home on some medications, and then following that, after about a week or 2 weeks, we follow him up in the clinic and subsequent follow-up to just see how he's going to develop.
Nashukuru sana wananchi wote wa Kenya ambao kwa maombi yao na hata dunia nzima, kwa sababu story ya Satrin imeenda mpaka mbali, na kwa maombi yenu nyote ndio imefanya mtoto wangu akafaulu katika operation.
His discharge from the hospital is only the first step. Satrin's mother was killed when gunmen stormed a church in Likoni and opened fire on worshippers.
We are very sorry that baby Satrin is going home to no mom. It's a very sad state, and that is why I just want to say that we want to ask all of us to continue praying for him and the family.
In his mother's absence, Satrin and his 13-year-old brother have formed a closer relationship with their father. It is a bond they will have to draw on as they rebuild their lives. There have been reports of job offers for Benson Osenya.
Mimi nimesikia tu kwa internet na pia nimeona wakiadvert kwa internet. Sijafuatilia, lakini yote ikitokea itakuwa pia ni baraka kwangu.
As they contemplate the future, the family of 3 jumps into a waiting taxi and heads to a city hotel where they will remain for a few days before making the journey back to Mombasa. The anxiety is over, and this is the first day of the rest of their lives.
Matarajio yangu ni kulinda familia yangu ikae vizuri vile tulikuwa tunakaa tukiwa pamoja na marehemu bibi yangu.
Baby Satrin is unlikely to remember anything from the last 3 weeks, but those who have been rooting for him will remember for a long time. As the country battles terror, baby Satrin's recovery is seen as a triumph across the country. Wilkester Nyabo, KTN in Nairobi.
And of course, we would like to thank you, our viewers, who did contribute towards Satrin and his family's well-being. Now, as we move away from that, the Supreme Court will tomorrow afternoon rule on whether or not to uphold the ruling that revokes the signal distribution license that was awarded to China's Pan-African Network Group. The ruling comes ahead of the hearing of an application by the Communication Authority of Kenya and the Pan-African Network Group that is set to commence in 2 weeks.
It is now 2 weeks since the Court of Appeal ruled in favor of 3 local media houses, Standard Group, Nation Media Group and Royal Media Services, awarding them digital licenses, revoking the signal distribution license awarded to China's Pan-African Network Group and extending the digital migration process to the 30th of September this year. Thursday morning, parties in the case appeared before Supreme Court judges Smokin Wanjala and Jackton Ojwang for direction, following an appeal by the Communication Authority of Kenya and the Pan-African Network Group. The Communication Authority of Kenya and the Pan-African Network Group want the Supreme Court to set aside the decision of the Court of Appeal.
An impression has been given that the moment you give a stay, there will be an equal field and we'll be able to switch them off. I can give an undertaking to this court that subject to the stay of the declaration, we also, the Commission undertakes not to switch off their broadcasts pending the hearing and determination of the appeal.
The Communication Authority of Kenya and the Pan-African Network Group argue that the 3 local media houses were not in the initial tendering process and the revocation of the PANG license will send a negative message to investors. The Standard Group, the Nation Media Group and Royal Media Services argue that if the Supreme Court stays the orders of the Court of Appeal, it would disadvantage some players in the industry.
Should you stay the entire judgment, it means there is no switchover date, or the switchover date has now passed. It means that the appellants or the respondents in this application would be operating illegally.
That perhaps the parties could be given up to Monday to discuss those undertakings so that if we were to agree, we come and formally record.
There has been negotiation and dialogue for over 2 years involving the players, where they kept postponing the migration date. So to have another dialogue between now and Monday is a small screen by my senior counsel.
Supreme Court judges Smokin Wanjala and Jackton Ojwang will give their ruling on Friday. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Kenya has moved to assure its development partners that the country is safe for business and tourism despite the ongoing war on terror. The state convened a meeting with diplomats in Nairobi to assure them of the country's security to avert travel advisories and economic backlash.
Whether strategic or out of pressure, the state convened a meeting with the diplomats in Nairobi. With the country scaling up its war on terror, screening for would-be illegal immigrants, the government is keen to avert a backlash. As such, the meeting would seek reassurance from diplomats that Kenya is still an economic and tourism hub within the region.
We discuss Kenya as a safe destination for investments and also as a safe destination for tourists.
Nearly 100 diplomats were called for a crucial meeting to endear the country to the international community as steadfast in the face of numerous attacks. The state has undertaken to issue regular briefs to the diplomats on its security undertakings. President Uhuru Kenyatta's regime quite keen to forestall issuance of travel advisories that in turn may hurt the country's economy.
It is these people who are here who give advisory notes to the citizens of their country, and it is important, therefore, that they have the correct information from the horse's mouth.
And the diplomats appreciated that this is a safe investment destination. That really was the message that was received very, very warmly. Therefore, Kenyan businessmen should also take advantage of the warm relations, the great location the country has, and even the strength and security to grow the economy.
Meanwhile, at the newly gazetted Kasarani Gymnasium Police Station, the screening exercise was momentarily disrupted. There was anxiety in the area when an unattended suitcase triggered a panic wave. Ballistic and bomb experts were called to the scene, only to discover the suitcase contained clothes and not a bomb as earlier thought. In Parliament, the Parliamentary Human Rights Caucus has petitioned the Speaker and the Majority Leader of the National Assembly to convene a special sitting on Tuesday. The group condemned the ongoing screening exercise, saying the Immigration Department is culpable of allowing immigrants in the country illegally or on forged documentation.
People should be screened. However, it is important that we do not use that to say every Somali person is a terrorist.
A department which need to be screened itself, it is the Immigration Department. It doesn't care which regime it came with. It doesn't matter. Kenyans, we are tired of these issues of Kenyans being killed by people we don't know where they came from.
While castigating the ongoing exercise, ODM party says the country requires a thorough audit of its security, intelligence and immigration system. Sentiments shared by a section of Jubilee leadership.
Mtu yote atapatikana kama Al-Shabaab suspect achukuliwe hatua, apelekwe mahakamani. Wale wako Nairobi kinyume ya sheria kama ni adabu wapelekwe. Tusilete mambo ya siasa hapa.
Serikali ya coalition iliyoisha ilifanya kitu ya mbaya ya kuregister.
Many of the terrorist attacks have been around Isli, many parts of northern Kenya and Mombasa. That is why we are focusing on these areas.
Samogina, KTN.
Much backlash from the Human Rights Caucus of Parliament, and on the big question tonight, we are asking you, do you support or should Parliament reconvene to discuss the security operation in Isli?
You know what to do to give us your opinion. SMS us on 22155 or tweet us at Kachangira, at Ben_Kitili and at KTN Kenya. We'll have a poll result for you at the end of this newscast. Now, in our 7 p.m. bulletin, KTN Leo, we carried a soundbite by Tigania West MP Mpuri Aburi making unsubstantiated claims against former Immigration Minister Otieno Kajwang. We wish to apologize for that and also to disassociate the Standard Group from those comments. We regret the embarrassment that was caused to Mr. Kajwanga. Now, separately, as we move on from that, Deputy President William Ruto says Operation Usalama Watch will continue as the intention is to weed out criminals and not to carry out ethnic profiling of any community. The Deputy President spoke as he engaged Kenyans on social media on the Jubilee administration's first year in office. And as KTN's Patrick Amimo reports, Ruto also spoke of the government's plans in the next 5 years.
Deputy President William Ruto utilized the social media to field questions from Kenyans on Twitter.
Kenyans did not get value for money.
Some of the key issues the public sought answers on included security, the rising cost of living, unemployment, and the laptop project. Ruto said the government has factored in the budget funds to purchase modern equipment for security agencies that will include anti-missile vehicles to deal with crimes such as terrorism, poaching, and cattle rustling.
We are buying additional helicopters that have the capacity to deal with cattle rustlers in terms of response time.
Ruto reiterated the Jubilee government will deliver on its campaign pledge over the laptop project for Standard 1 pupils in public schools.
The project on computer labs is underway, though we scaled it down a bit because we wanted to concentrate more on the laptops. We've rolled out this program. Unfortunately, it has been caught up with issues of competitive procuring process.
According to the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, unemployment rate in Kenya increased to 40% in 2011 from 12.7% in 2006. 70% of those unemployed are below 35 years. Ruto said the government has rolled out infrastructural projects in roads, rail and energy sector that will expand the economy and create jobs.
We have done 14,000 kilometers of road in the last 50 years. 14,000 kilometers of road, of tarmac. We want to do 10,000 kilometers of tarmac in the next 5 years. That somebody may think, are these guys serious? We are serious, and it is doable. In the next 40 months, we believe that we should have reduced the cost of energy from 18 US cents to 10 US cents. Our goods will be cheaper. We can then expand the economy. More industry will relocate to Kenya, and we will get more young people employed in that sector.
On food security, Ruto said maize production will be doubled by the third year through irrigation.
The first 10,000 acres of what we are calling the model farm is underway. 100,000 acres will be put under production next year. Progressively, by the 5th year, we will have the whole 1 million acres under production. When we double the production of maize, what will happen is that the prices will come down.
Some questioned whether the government will deliver on its pledges by 2018.
They have that all-powerful instrument called the vote. If we don't deliver on our mandate, and it is very clear to us, and we are listening, and I am happy that Kenyans are on our backs with pressure that you guys must deliver.
The interactions had some light moments.
VP Hustler, nimetext unye but harespond. Manze ni sort na kadhao moja, ninafungiwa nyumba, nitarudisha tukilipwa. And you are saying you sent that to the president?
So, the Jubilee government says it will fulfill on its pledges. Some of them, you might say, are very ambitious. But the government says they are doable, despite the fact that the country is facing a huge domestic and foreign debt. Patrick Amimo, KTN, Nairobi.
Now, beginning close to 10 years ago, the world praised Kenya's millions of children enrolled in public primary schools with the onset of the free primary school program. But a new staffing report paints a grim picture of the number of teachers with the burden of teaching these pupils. And as KTN's Najma Ismail reports, some teachers are handling as many as 80 pupils in a class because of the biting shortage of teachers.
Liboi Primary School in Garissa County. There are over 800 eager learners in this institution. However, most of them don't get to cover all the subjects in the curriculum. This is because the school has only 14 teachers.
The
pupils are overpopulated in class-wise. They are over 188, between 88 to 109 in a class. That's caused by shortage of teachers in our school.
Statistics like these are the ones that are alarming stakeholders. According to staffing data for Nairobi Primary School by Elimu Yetu, many schools appear to be understaffed. In a summary of teacher establishment in 10 sub-counties in Nairobi, Dagoretti has a shortage of 61 teachers, followed by Makadara with a shortage of 44 teachers, and then Langata with 38 less teachers than they need. One of the schools where teachers are struggling with the heavy load is Gitabi Primary School in Dagoretti. It has only 15 teachers for a total of 992 pupils. According to the data, the school needs at least 10 more teachers to cater for all the pupils. That is a ratio of 66 pupils to 1 teacher. Mukuru Primary School in Makadara has a ratio of 75 pupils for every 1 teacher. The total population is 1,363 learners and only 18 teachers at hand. This school needs at least 14 more teachers. This picture is replicated in many schools in the county. However, in areas like Embakasi, several schools have more teachers than they need. The Embakasi sub-county has a surplus of over 50 teachers. Moy Avenue Primary in the CBD is one such school which is not doing badly.
Our classes are not very packed.
Najma Ismail, KTN.
The National Transport and Safety Authority has impounded 34 matatus belonging to a SACCO whose vehicle was involved in an accident in Masi last Saturday. The authority claims the matatus have violated the new traffic rules.
It could easily have been mistaken for a bus terminus, but the National Transport and Safety Authority has simply made one of its biggest impounds yet. 35 vehicles in total, all from the Makata SACCO, which plies the Nairobi-Machakos route.
We expect them going forward that they will take more responsibility. This particular experience has shown us that these SACCO have still not understood exactly what their roles are.
Drivers and owners of the impounded matatus, however, say the NTSA is using allegations of broken rules as a smokescreen. On Saturday, one of the matatus from this sacco was involved in an accident in Masii, killing 13 people, all from the same extended family. The matatu, it was later reported, had no speed governor and was apparently overloaded.
This vehicle is a 14-seater that ordinarily would have been expected to carry 14 passengers. By the time of the accident, we are told that 19 persons were in this vehicle. So clearly, this vehicle was overloaded, which is against the requirements of the Traffic Act.
Owners of these matatus believe that warning on Saturday is a real reason behind their cars being grounded.
Gari ilikuwa na kila kitu. Ilikuwa imecomply na kila kitu. Yeah. Silikuwa ndani sababu gari ilikuwa imekunjika kabisa.
The Transport Authority, however, says the rules were not followed, and to add on to the holding of the matatus, they were looking into revoking driving licenses of the drivers who were found driving the cars that do not comply with the new traffic regulations. Edith Kimani, KTN.
In other news, the Judicial Service Commission is challenging the decision by the Industrial Court on the removal of former Judiciary Chief Registrar Gladys Boss-Shulei. The Court of Appeal has directed that the case be heard urgently.
After the Industrial Court, through Justice Ndumanderi, found that the JSC made an error in sacking Shulei, the former Chief Registrar decided to ask for her job back. At the Court of Appeal, lawyer Donald Kipkorir told the appellate judges that the former Chief Registrar Gladys Shulei should be accorded the same status as other suspended judges, with a car, a driver, security, and half her salary.
Statement of her benefits which existed prior to 18 October last year, as of her salary, a driver, a car.
But the JSC has objected to this, saying the government is facing tough economic times and the judiciary's budget was too limited to pay two registrars at the same time. Through their lawyers led by Paul Mwite, the JSC is challenging the Industrial Court's ruling that Shulei was wrongfully dismissed. The appellate judges, led by Justice Hannah Okwengu, GBM Karaoke, and Patrick Kyage, said the matter will be heard on 19th of May this year. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court is set to make its ruling on the fate of Meru Governor Peter Munya. Munya is appealing the decision to nullify his election as Governor of Meru. Kilemi Mwira is objecting to this, saying that the decision by the Court of Appeal was right and that the people of Meru should be headed for a by-election. At the same time, the Supreme Court judges declined to enjoin the Governor's Council in Munya's petition. Winnie Kamau, KTN.
The unemployment is also a great challenge for the Jubilee administration. In Kisumu, the youth have decided to be proactive and are creating job opportunities. KTN's Fred Omolo brings us tonight's edition of the Jubilee Scorecard.
Over the last 8 years, the unemployment rate has increased from 12% to a worrying 40%, according to the Kenya Bureau of Statistics, a figure that the Jubilee team promised to bring down prior to the 2013 general elections. Unemployment is especially prevalent among the youth, and in the county of Kisumu, young people are trying to draw positives from a bad situation. While Jubilee policy wonks ponder the best way to tackle unemployment in the country, the youth in Kisumu took the initiative during the last regime, setting a trend that successive high school graduates have adopted. For the last 5 years, the silver bullet has been the ubiquitous motorcycle taxi, estimated to employ almost 500,000 youths in the Nyanza Crescent.
Nimeifanya kwa muda wa miaka kama 7 sasa. Na hii kazi naipenda kulingana na malipo ile napata kwa hii kazi. Watu ukiniambia kwenda kuniajiri sasa sioni kama naweza kubali. Unless unisaidia na njia nyingine ya kuniambia nibaie pikipiki.
According to economists, two of the best policy decisions that the Kibaki regime made in its first term were the lowering of taxes on imported motorcycles and the provision of free primary education. And the long-term effect has been increasing the numbers of educated young people who value self-reliance and creating a constant sink that absorbs the unemployed, easing the burden on the state.
The greatest impact that we are seeing is the attitude. The youths are now looking out to support themselves more than being supported. And if you look at even the number of youths who are now going around looking for capital support, financial support, getting loans, it tells you that the attitude of the majority of the youths have changed and they would want to be self-reliant.
Apart from motorcycle taxis, popularly known as boda, there are other small businesses that the youth here have embraced, including car wash yards, barber shops and retail outlets. A key participant in the process has been private sector players, especially micro-lending institutions that have stepped in to make profits and reduce unemployment, killing two birds with one stone as the current regime appears clueless on how to create jobs.
We have seen banks, we've seen the microfinance institutions advancing loans to the youth through the private sector, and they're able to secure car wash machines, they're securing motorbikes, and that in itself tells you that the role of the private sector cannot be ignored. In fact, I would mention this categorically, that I believe the county government must recognize the role of the private sector.
Stakeholders say that once county governments came into place, all they had was the lighter task of capacity building to increase the number of those who are already engaged in productive activities.
We have lined up over 96 small jobs. We call them small jobs because they are under 1 million of value, 1 million and below, that we are going to contract out to the youth. Now the only pre-qualification here is that they register with the National Treasury and get what we are referring to as the young certificate.
Far from the unemployment time bomb that spawned street gangs like the Baghdad Boys 2 decades ago, young people in Kisumu are now taking up jobs in any sector that caters for a comfortable but progressive lifestyle. And they are hoping that their fellow young people across the nation can borrow a leaf as the government gets its house in order. From Kisumu City, I am Fredo Mulo.
Let's now go to Nakuru, where police are holding a man on suspicion that he is masquerading as an advocate of the High Court. The man was ambushed at his office early today by lawyers who practice in the Rift Valley region. The lawyers frog-marched him to the police station for questioning.
My name is Boni Tunya. This is business. Most Kenyan companies are spending huge resources poaching employees instead of retaining their own. Now, this is according to a new strategy by a new survey. Here's KTN's Adelaide Changola with the rest of that report.
Lack of career development, poor work-life balance, and lack of proper remunerations are some of the factors that continue to plague employees both in the private and public sectors, according to a survey by consulting firm Deloitte East Africa. As a result, organizations spend more resources trying to retain the few employees that exhibit exceptional talents needed for the job.
Retention and engagement replaces leadership as the key human capital challenge.
This has created the spate of poaching witnessed in various sectors of the economy as skilled workers who are in high demand move from one employer to another in search of greener pastures.
People who know are effective are moving from one organization to the other. Now, when they do that, every time they move, they ask for a premium. So they want to be paid more than their previous job. And that has been driving up salaries in Kenya.
To solve this, the experts are urging firms to nurture and develop their own talent, not only to reduce the skills gap, but also to reduce the cost that comes with poaching.
Hiring your way out of the skills shortage is increasingly going to become more difficult to do. So the challenge to organizations will be to effectively build your own supply chain.
It's always expensive to replace and bring people from outside. There will always be a premium on the cost.
The findings were released during the launch of the 2014 Best Company to Work For survey by the consulting firm.
Because it includes a value rating, this helps you to narrow down and pinpoint what matters most to your employees so that you can realign your engagement strategies.
The survey is in its third year and will study more than 30 companies. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
Stakeholders in the ICT industry have identified the need to have clear legal framework around the recent trend of storing data in the virtual space, commonly known as cloud computing. According to a new study done by the University of Nairobi, 80% of all stakeholders, including industry experts, are not aware of any policy or legal framework surrounding the technology. The study found out that the cloud services market is ready but faces shortage of technical skills and misunderstanding about the technology. It further advocates that for the government to take up cloud services so as to set up space for uptake by the private sector. Speaking at the launch of the survey, Deputy Principal Secretary in the Ministry of ICT, Brown Otunga, said that the research was timely and its findings would guide on improving provisions of services by the government.
Now know awareness is an issue. We now know skills is an issue. We now know perception is an issue. Security is an issue. Except skills is an issue. Now then we move to government who determine policy, and we inform and we request that we need to put effort in a certain direction.
The National ICT Master Plan proposes the establishment of ICT as an independent sector and proposes indicators for which data will be collected by KNBS to provide critical sector statistics to guide policy making.
Also, National Carrier Kenya Airways has announced a bilateral code-sharing agreement with South Africa's low-cost airline Kulalu.com. The agreement will see KQ place codes on all South African domestic routes currently served by Kulalu. The new agreement will allow the national carrier to spread its wings to 4 new destinations within South Africa, namely Cape Town, Durban, George City, and East London. Kulalu.com, on the other hand, is expected to benefit from the partnership by placing their codes on multiple daily Kenya Airways services between Johannesburg and Nairobi. Clients of the 2 airlines are also expected to benefit from the convenient booking and travel options within South Africa.
You're going to East London, you're going to Georgetown. I'm thinking students who have a lot of...
I think the most important thing here is the value of the opportunity that this brings to the KQ guest population and also to the Kulalu.com population.
Any student who is traveling to East London or to George or to Cape Town would be able to have one through ticket all the way. The beauty of it is that we have agreed as an airline to take the baggage allowance for Kenya Airways. That therefore would make it possible to enjoy the current benefits that they're enjoying traveling on Kenya Airways.
And finally, oil marketer Kenol Kobil is back to profitability, posting 558.4 million shillings in after-tax profit in the year ended December 2013. Now, the result reverses a 6.2 billion shilling loss in the previous year after the company sold some of its assets, as well as restructuring program that saw 236 workers laid off to cut costs. And remember, you can get the details of that particular story on our website. That is www.standardmedia.co.ke. Let's talk numbers now with a look at the financial market report coming up next.
A very good evening and a warm welcome to KTN Sports Today. I'm Lynn Washiren. Well, James Nando has joined the statistics of Kenyan Premier League coaches who have been fired due to poor results. FC Leopards Secretary General George Alado says in a statement that Washington Muhanji will take up Nando's roles in an acting capacity. Meanwhile, the Italian under-20 national team is expected in the country next week for friendly matches against their Kenyan counterparts.
The Kenya Under-20 team started its campaign for the 2015 African Junior Championship with a barren draw against visiting Tanzania in the first round qualification. The boys are, however, yet to get real footballing lesson before the return leg when they host Italian Azzurrini Under-20 national team on the 16th of April at Kasarani Stadium.
We have been having discussions with the Italian Federation, and they have now accepted to bring their national under-20 team to Kenya next week.
The two friendly matches that the Italian teams is going to play will be a quite important occasion, both for the Italian and the Kenyan teams.
Also to get a taste of Italian soccer on Friday is Gor Mahia under-20 team.
They have also been very gracious to agree to play Gor Mahia.
The Kenya under-20 team has failed to sparkle in a number of its international outing, and if the necessary strings are pulled right, the team will be crucial in mending the future stars of the main national team. Elsewhere, James Nando reign as the AFC Leopards coach ended a day after the 2013 first runners-up were humiliated by debutants KRA. Club Secretary General George Alado confirmed Nando's sacking and announced that Washington Muhanji will be in charge when the Felons take on City Stars in Mumias on Saturday. Leopards have won 2 matches out of 8 so far this season. Moses Wahesi, KTN Sports.
Thank you, Moses, for that report. And United States International University is among the few institutions that have taken sports seriously. The institution has dominant basketball, hockey, and rugby teams taking part in top-flight competitions in the country. As of now, there's another crop of over 50 footballers fighting for space within the school's list of sporting disciplines. Victor Ogale digs deeper into the national inter-university soccer champions.
It has been a long journey for the USIU soccer team, especially being in a setup where other dominant sporting disciplines have been producing better results than them. That prompted the institution's sports administrators to structure the team's operations in a bid to popularize the game for better results. Former Gor Mahia coach Joseph Auka has turned the team's fortune around, leading it to winning the inter-university title.
Rugby, the offensive is stronger than the defense. Basketball, the same. That's why you see goals 100 like that. Same with netball and volleyball. But soccer, to make goals, it's very difficult.
It is not very hard to go up the ladder in basketball. It is tough, but it's not. It is the way to the top is shorter than soccer.
7, 8, 9. As of now, USIU has 70 soccer players, including foreigners, which sometimes leaves the team handlers with an uphill task of selecting a final squad.
This year mnapata wachezaji wapya. After hiyo mwaka wakigraduate, hata kabla tena mtengeze team, hiyo ndio imefanya team ikarudi chini kiasi.
Every year USIU inajaribu ku upgrade standards zao. Tunajaribu at least management inaendelea kutupush.
Soccer was the first sport to be introduced here at the United States International University in the late 90s, and in the early 2000s the team dominated the local soccer scene, and the years that followed its popularity went down. And as of now, the team seem to have found their winning ways as their current national university champions. Victor Ogale, KTN USIU Grounds, Nairobi.
And shifting gears from soccer to rugby, all the teams taking part in Saturday's Confederations of African Women's Sevens Rugby have arrived in Nairobi. 8 of Africa's top 7s playing nations, led by defending champion South Africa, will be heading to Machakos tomorrow for the one-day competition at the Kenyatta Stadium. The other teams in the competition are hosts Kenya, Uganda, Tunisia, Zimbabwe, Senegal, Madagascar, and Namibia. The top 2 sides from the 2 pools will play in the Cup semis, with the bottom 2 playing in the Ball semis. Kenya is in Pool A together with champion South Africa, Senegal, and Madagascar, while Pool B has last year's beaten finalists Tunisia, Uganda, Zimbabwe, and Namibia. Fans have been encouraged to travel to Machakos to cheer on the Kenyan Queens.
These are our girls. Let's go and showcase the game of rugby being played by girls and young women.
So gone a step further to ensure the security of our players. As you note, we have 7 countries visiting, including ours, that makes a total of 8 national teams, and their welfare and their